Okay. Hi, this is Mark Viquez, and you're listening to the Ballpark Hunter podcast. Well, today is a very exciting day because baseball has returned to the historic Hinchcliffe Stadium in Paterson, New Jersey. And with me today is probably the man who spearheaded this movement, along with a few others, well over 25 years ago. Brian Lopinto, who is the co-founder of the Friends of Hinchcliffe Stadium. And Brian, you must be jazzed today about the announcement. How you feeling?
Well, Mark, first, let me just say thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. I really appreciate it. Yeah, today is a very surreal day. Professional baseball will be returning to Paterson, New Jersey at Hinchcliffe Stadium. And it's always been, a dream of mine. I wasn't certain if we would ever get professional baseball. I always thought that maybe a college wood bat league would work, or maybe one game a year with the Jackals playing in Negro Leagues uniforms. But the situation they had in Yogi Berra Stadium, obviously whatever that was, is Hinchcliffe Stadium's gain.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. And like you said, you would have been happy with a few exhibition games. I mean, is this quick? Is this like, wait a minute, is this really happening? We're getting a professional baseball team? I mean, how's that setting in? Or when did you
I think
that was going to happen?
Yeah, I do have some pretty good sources over the 20 plus years that I've been advocating for Hinchliffe Stadium, and thankfully those reliable sources kind of clued me in that this was in the works, and that's really a big testament to Al Dorso, who's the owner of the New Jersey Jackals, as well as the Jackals family. The fact that the Dorso family and the Jackals will have this really strong connection to Paterson. Mr. Dorso was born in Paterson, and they believe in the Hinchcliffe Stadium project. So without their belief, I don't think that we would have had a great announcement like we had today.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking to myself, I watched the announcement earlier today. I've been to Hinchcliffe a few times, about 6, 7 years ago, went inside, looked around, squalid condition. And just like you, I'm thinking to myself, when is this going to be renovated? Because stadiums like this usually just get knocked down. And I think it all started when the superintendent of the Paterson Public Schools said back in 1996, it was going to be just as much to knock it down than to restore it. And then that's when you got the ball going, correct?
Yeah, that was I recall that very much so. It was actually 1997, and
Okay.
that's actually the article that prompted me to kind of take a look at the stadium with a closer eye. Yeah, the superintendent was Laval Wilson, and according to him at that time, it would have cost $4 million to demolish Hinchliffe Stadium or rehabilitate at a cost of $4.8 million.
Okay.
And his comments were, well, we're probably going to lead toward demolition. And to me, you're going to sell out a city of 150,000 people for a lousy $800,000. I mean, my feeling is 4 million would have been committed, whether it's demolition, rehabilitation. That's already out the door. What's an extra $800,000 between friends? I mean, really, at the end of the day, the right decision at that time would have been to redo the stadium at a cost of $4.8 million as opposed to 94 plus now,
Yeah.
and we would have our stadium. But that's just the way the story goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. 25 years ago, you probably could have renovated it for much less. Now you probably would have had to renovate it a little more throughout the years, but it's just it's happening. It's just kind of shocking because I wasn't even aware that it was even close to being done. How close are we for the grand opening?
So
Rededication?
I visit the site rather often, um, regardless if people want me to visit the site. And it's coming along. I think the crews are doing a fantastic job. Obviously we do have certain issues with materials as the rest of the world does, and
Yeah.
even just the production of equipment that's needed, and materials, etc. But it's coming along quite nicely. I would venture to guess, just judging by its progress as I'd seen it earlier today, I think spring is safe.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to open this fall as originally predicted, but as long as it's open by Frontier League opening day, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just amazing to think that the Jackals are leaving and playing there. I wasn't even aware they were even thinking about it. But this is a 1932 stadium. We've had the Black Yankees, the Cubans. Larry Doby, hometown hero, was discovered there. Do you have any sense of what the baseball dimensions are going to look like? And will they be similar or not?
Yes. So I know that the Jackals will be releasing the renderings. If they haven't already, they might do that a little later today or tomorrow. My sincere hope is that, logic dictates that you put it in the exact same place where over 20 Hall of Famers played. That is so important to a historic building like Hinchcliffe Stadium, and to really get these young players in the Frontier League to experience where Hall of Famers played, for high school kids to stand in the same spot. Maybe it's not the same batter's box, it's going to be artificial surface, but at the end of the day, there's something to be said about that. And it just makes sense because there's no other configuration that makes sense other than what the Negro Leaguers played on. If it's good enough for 20 plus Hall of Famers, it's got to be good enough for the Frontier League guys and high school ball players. So those dimensions would be similar to that of the Polo Grounds. The Polo Grounds is a ballpark that is most comparable to Hinchcliffe Stadium.
Oh, okay.
And again, if that was good enough for Willie Mays,
yeah,
why not?
Bobby Thompson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Babe
sure,
Ruth too. His first few years.
I'm sorry.
Babe Ruth, even that was his first ballpark he played with the Yankees when he joined the club.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and and they were so good that the Giants kicked them out.
yeah. So, I mean, in fact,
it was kind of funny.
I would say 3 years in a row, the World Series was played between the Giants and the Yankees, 1920 to 23, and they were both playing at the Polo Grounds. And you're right.
Yeah, it's a very rare occurrence where you would have the World Series in one venue. It happened in 1944 in St. Louis with the Browns and the Cardinals, and it happened in 2020, which I happened to be at Game 1 of that World Series, the first ever neutral site World Series. So that was a pretty interesting thing. So the Polo Grounds would be the most comparable ballpark to Hinchcliffe.
All right. So with that being said, we are talking about Paterson itself. I talked to a few people because I'm from Woodbridge Township, New Jersey, so I know a little bit about Paterson. And for those of you who don't know anything about Paterson, if you ever watched the movie Lean on Me, Joe Clark, Morgan Freeman, it took place, I guess, Eastside High School. So
correct.
I don't know. There's some people that have maybe a little bias towards Paterson. How are things there? I hear it's an up and coming city.
Well, as someone who's born and raised in Paterson, of course, I do love the town. And it's got a great history, and the Great Falls and the National Park is the best thing that's happened to Patterson in probably the last 50 or 60 years. And I think when it comes to that, the National Park Service, they have a strong brand. And really, I think that's what's helping to bring the 300,000 people to Paterson and to that area a year. And now having Hinchcliffe Stadium and a ball club there, that gives those 300,000 people that come by each year something to do if they happen to be in town when there's a ball game going on. As far as the rest of town, yes, I'll be quite frank. Unfortunately, there is a major drug problem in town, and that needs to be addressed. And hopefully that will be addressed. But I know certainly, what the National Park has done to make sure that is a destination is incredible. And Hinchcliffe Stadium is within the boundaries of a national park. So when the Jackals play on opening day, it will be the first professional game played within the boundaries of a national park. I think that's special. I hope the Frontier League partners with the National Park Service and makes special baseballs for games at Hinchcliffe. And it's certainly an exciting time to be a baseball fan in the Paterson area.
No, definitely. Because, I was talking to a friend, he doesn't like the neighborhood. And I said, well, it's the national park. They're building a river walk up there.
Yeah.
You complain when the Devils built the Prudential Center in Newark, but you go there to games. So it can't be too bad.
Sure. And that's the thing. I think once people get past, this idea of Paterson, just like they did in Newark. I mean, in fact, I was at Prudential Center last night. It was wonderful. I actually love that arena, quite frankly.
Me
at
too.
the end of the day, once say what?
I'm a little biased. I like it too. I like it too, especially, there's not any Ranger fans there, but
No, yeah, I know. And I don't know. Where do you lean on the Hudson River battle there?
Oh, I'm a Devils fan, born and raised.
Okay, good. I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. I too
yeah.
have won
E-
quite a bit, but
Even
yeah,
though it's I'm still waiting for the Devils to get that team to make the playoffs. I feel like I've been waiting for that for
yeah. I think we all are, but I think it's coming soon.
yeah, there's some great talent.
Of course, I'm
Great.
also the optimist.
Yeah.
No, they absolutely do.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, exactly.
Speaking of hockey, that's the one sport in Patterson that has not been played professionally. And I would love for Hinchcliffe Stadium to maybe host some sort
An
of,
outdoor hockey
even if
game.
it's a minor league hockey game.
Oh heck yeah.
I think that would be a wonderful thing. Those outdoor hockey games the NHL puts on are fantastic. I've
Yeah.
gone to two at Yankee Stadium. I think the possibilities for Hinchcliffe are rather endless, and it really does need to be a revenue generating machine, because at the end of the day, the revenue generating events go back into the upkeep, because there's going to be a need for yearly preventative maintenance, and I hope that the developers understand that.
Well, yeah, you talk about other events. They're looking at soccer, they're looking at high school sports, an outdoor hockey game. Do you know of any other teams looking at playing there, like a USL championship team, or the Patterson School is going
Well,
to be hosting Thanksgiving games there?
yeah, I will say I know that there's been interest from the soccer community to have a professional team there. And I hope that that happens. And I think that it can. Certainly, I believe that baseball and soccer can live within the same building. It's just a matter of scheduling.
Yeah.
And I think that's another great, family-oriented, affordable, opportunity to have events at Hinchcliffe Stadium. I would love to see maybe a 3-day music festival, or just concerts in general. You know, um, I know Patterson over the years had done a lot of parades through town. Instead of a parade, maybe have a 3-day festival that honors, whether it be the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and that's a 3-day event, or whatever parades had gone through. Instead of having a parade, have a 3-day event that's food and music and culture. I think the possibilities are endless, but everyone needs to be open-minded to these revenue generating opportunities.
Oh yeah, I mean, just the plain design of the stadium, definitely makes it ideal, for sports. I see new stadiums getting built, and you can tell they're trying to make it for baseball and football or soccer, lacrosse, and usually one of the sports
Right.
that's, one of the sports you're thinking, okay, this is an odd design, but it's a horseshoe-shaped stadium, Hinchcliffe. It's got one of those classic
Right.
early 1930s Art Deco design. I don't know how many people who are listening or paying attention to it, but check out Friends of Hinchcliffe. Go on YouTube and check out some videos of Hinchcliffe, what it looked like before with weeds and grass and broken bottles. That's all gone now. It's a beautiful structure. And I remember when I used to walk around there, I'm like, wow, the high school's right next door. You can hear kids in the playing out on the I guess it was like a daycare going on during the summer. You can hear kids playing in the parking lot next door, and here I am in this vast jungle of squalid conditions. And it's just a great story to hear, because this is one of the, I think, 5 Negro League stadiums still in existence, and it's going to be used for baseball again.
Yeah, it really is something. I mean, kind of like think, even like as I look back on, I was interviewed by a really great journalist named Mark Carrig. He's of the Athletic,
Cool.
and I gave him a tour of Hinchcliffe Stadium in its squalor, and he said to me, he goes, "Do you realize you've been spending your entire adult life trying to save this place?" And I kind of like, yeah, how about that, And then we kind of kept going with the tour, and then he reminded me that again. And I said, "Do you have to remind me of that?" Like, it was kind of like, it was kind of cool, because he was really kind of in awe of it. But then I was like, "Oh my God, I really have spent my entire adult life doing this." But
Well, I mean, yeah,
it's for the love of the game. Um,
yeah, your
yeah,
legacy. I mean, people, I hope, will talk about you when it's all said and done. If this is successful, and there's activities going on there, they're going to look to the efforts from you.
I appreciate that. It's kind of funny you say that, because for me, it's always been about Larry Doby's legacy, and like, hey,
Well,
people, please don't forget about Larry Doby. And I'm hopeful that with the rehabilitation of Hinchcliffe Stadium that as a society, we can start saying Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby integrated baseball, broke
Yes.
the color barrier, whatever term you want to use, because only 11 weeks separate the two. And really, like, no one knows who Larry Doby is still, even though he's in baseball's Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
It took him too long to get there. I'm glad, selfishly, because I was at his induction ceremony. That's where I met the Doby family for the first time. And I'm grateful to actually be friends with Larry Doby Jr. And it's just been a great journey, but the journey is going to continue because, advocates never go away. We have to keep watching because I need to know what's happening after the ribbon cutting. Once the novelty wears off, that's when you have to kind of keep watching a place like Hinchcliffe Stadium. So I'm going to be a season ticket holder for the Jackals, that's for sure, and definitely going to keep my eye on that ballpark because I just love it too much.
No, that's great because I remember I re I remember Hamtramck Stadium in Detroit, right outside Detroit, another old Negro League stadium. I walked through there, much smaller, ridiculously much smaller.
Mhm.
But there was efforts from a gentleman there as well to get that back into shape. And I actually visited the stadium about a month ago and was watching youth baseball. So it's back to hosting baseball, and you just love to see these efforts.
I was there twice
Okay.
and had to see it because for me, like I do have a special affinity for places like Rickwood Field, and I've been to Rickwood Field
One of
only
the
on the outside. Oh,
I've been
Rickford's
there.
the holy grail. That's what I always.
No, exactly. That it's the oldest ballpark. I went there for the Rickwood Classic in 2019. I was able to talk to some former Negro League players, which, my goodness, you talk about just something surreal. And these are guys who played in the
Yeah.
50s, and they had stories to tell you. I mean, just talking to any older baseball player about their time, just something cherished. And
Mhm.
yeah, it is quite the experience. If you can ever get down to Rickwood to check out the old Rickwood Classic, it's recommended.
Yeah, that's definitely on my to-do list, and I was grateful last year to attend the Field of Dreams game.
Oh,
So,
jealous.
and that was amazing.
Yeah, no, that's
And
yeah.
I can tell you,
I'm not about a 7 hour drive from there. Yeah, about a 7 hour drive, and it's like, yeah, do I really want to go out there? Do I want to? Can I get a credential? Do I know somebody? Do I spend the money on the ticket? It's like all these things I debate, and
I know, I kept hearing the voices in my saying,
yeah,
like, go the distance and
yes.
that whole line when people have it's money they have, but peace they want. I'm like, all right, I gotta go.
Well, yeah, I have the money, but I had to buy a new AC unit. I had to get some stuff taken care of my attic or my crawl space
I
because of
hear
mice.
you.
Yeah, that's where my money's going. It's going into the house.
Well, I should add that I'm also a ridiculous human being. So yes, there was really like if I had all those things, I was probably putting that to the side.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
My
Yeah.
girlfriend was so supportive, so how could I not,
Yeah. No. When you can do it,
But
you can do it. Now, one of the
what I did good.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, even during that trip, I kind of looked at how Major League Baseball was putting together the operation just to kind of see, gee, I wonder if this could happen in Patterson. And, there's a lot of infrastructure that's needed, but I think if Major League Baseball were to be given the keys to Hinchcliffe Stadium, they could make it work.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, why not? I mean, and how many people
Yeah.
will it hold for a baseball game? Is it 10,000?
Well, the original construction was for 10,000, but the project had to be scaled back to 7,500
Okay.
simply to accommodate for ADA compliance.
Okay.
So there's definitely, ADA compliance seating that's needed. So therefore, those seats needed to be taken out so that you can have those opportunities.
Okay, that makes sense. That definitely. And then, one of the questions I was going to ask, and we can go back, did you ever talk to Larry Doby? And it appears that you did. When you spoke to him, what did he have to say about his time in Patterson?
Yeah, so I have three wonderful moments,
Okay,
and
great.
I'll go through them kind of quickly here. So the first time was at a baseball dinner, and I was at this Major League Baseball dinner. It was I think it was a sports writers dinner, and I found the seating chart, and I saw where Larry Doe was sitting, and I wanted to meet him and get his autograph. And I was kind of concerned. I said, if he's gonna be mean to me, I'm gonna be crushed, you know. But
Oh,
he was amazing. He was a gentleman. I said, Mr. Doby, I said, my name is Brian. I said, I'm from Patterson. And his eyes lit up.
mm,
And, we talked a little bit. I said, well, part of town? He goes, oh, I lived in different parts of town. And he signed my program and he asked me my name and he personalized it to me. And in fact, my name is Brian, but he wrote to Bry, which is like, wow, that's even more personal, right? So that was the first one. The second one was at his Hall of Fame induction. I was grateful enough and lucky enough to receive a credential to cover the induction for my college media. And I was very lucky to ask the last question at the
mm.
press conference. And that question, of course, was, what was your most memorable moment at Hinchcliffe Stadium? And he talked about the fond memories he had there. And he pointed to his tryout for the Newark Eagles he called it June of 1942. I believe it was May of 1942, but what's a month, right?
Exactly.
And he spoke about that. And then the last time I had seen him was in 2002 at the dedication for Larry Doby Field. And there was a reception afterwards. And at that time, I was actually a welcome guest, and I was invited to the reception. And there Larry Doby was sitting in the booth, and people came by and spoke to him. I just waited online patiently, and I introduced myself, and I asked him the same question again, because he has every right to change his mind. And he gave me the same exact answer because I needed to make sure in my own mind what was his most memorable moment. And it was his tryout with the Negro Leagues. And how could it not be? It was the day that changed his life forever. And that
Mhm.
took place at Hinchcliffe Stadium.
Yeah, and people don't realize he went from the Negro Leagues to Cleveland. He didn't play in the minor leagues.
Correct.
And Bill
He's
Veeck, I think, actually awarded the Negro League team money. It's not like he said, "Okay, we'll take the player." He compensated.
That's correct. So Effa Manley was the one who negotiated that, and she
That's
made
right.
sure she was a tough negotiator, and she's in baseball's Hall of Fame too, the first woman to be in the Baseball Hall
Yep.
of Fame. And yeah, she was very protective of her players, but at the same time, she knew that she was a business, and at the same time, she knew that the business was going to change rather rapidly now that Larry was coming into the league. So yeah, so he was the first person that was actually compensated for his work, at least to the ball club. But what was interesting is that the Cleveland Indians wanted him to start his career in Cleveland. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a Patterson journalist who broke the story.
Mm.
So instead of sending him to Cleveland, they diverted him to Chicago because the news was already out, and they felt they had to bring him out there. And the poor guy traveled all night, couldn't stay at the team hotel, and we all know the rest of the story. He pinched hit, he struck out his first at bat, and that was half a season, and then he learned how to play the outfield, and became played in the World Series the following year in 1948. And as the rest, they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, and you're
But it all
absolutely right.
started that history. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. People sort of forget about him, and that was at a time when he wasn't playing against Brooklyn. They didn't have interleague baseball for many years. So he was
Correct.
facing the same criticism and racism and God knows what else that you and I will never have to go through. Um, and I don't know if he talked a lot about his history. I did read that someone was going to sit with him to do to do a biography, but they never had the chance. And
Well,
I
I
don't know.
know Jerry Eisenberg,
Yeah.
who actually I know him a little bit. He's
Oh,
a great
really?
guy. I
Nice.
actually owe him a phone. He's a great guy. He's actually working on another book right now about famous seconds in the world. Of course, Doby being one of them,
Yes.
because he was friends with Doby. But I think Larry Doby really just kind of told him everything, and I think Eisenberg really put that out there. Like there are people that spit in tobacco in his face, and I think either Jerry Eisenberg is the only one that knows about who that player was,
Oh,
or either Doby never told. I don't remember the exact details, but Doby was more about, really highlighting those that really cared about him. People like Joe Gordon, who was a really close friend. Of course, the Veeck family, um, people that really just kind of, took a liking to him and just were just genuine people to him. And I think I think that's what he always focused on, and he always took pride in that picture. And I really welcome everybody to look up Larry Doby, Steve Gromek, who is actually from Hamtramck, Michigan.
Oh, really?
Ironically, there's that beautiful picture of them after Game 4 of the 1948 World Series, where Doby hits the home run, and they're hugging each other. And historians, and I can't find a picture earlier than 1948, but the belief is it's the first image of a black man and a white man in an embrace, and they are just full on smiles, and it was just a thing of beauty because they were celebrating something that was awesome, and
Yeah.
they were just really teammates, and all through baseball.
Yeah, no, it truly was. And, it's, I love hearing about these stories. Unfortunately, Larry's no longer with us. God, you can only imagine, what he would have been able to share if somebody sat down and got more information from him. But, I get it. He probably doesn't want to talk about the negatives, and rightfully so. I probably wouldn't want to talk about that either. But you're right. His legend, hopefully there'll be a mural statue. Are they going to honor his legacy somehow at the stadium?
Sure. I mean, I know that they will. I know the New Jersey Jackals will absolutely do that. In fact, I was part of a Larry Doby Day celebration last year at the Jackals game, and in fact, I was on the radio with Reed Keller, who's the great voice of the Jackals. And it's funny, during that interview, I remember saying to him, it would be nice if the Jackals could play one game a year here. And I think no one knew that this would be a possibility until probably until about
games.
like June of this year that
Yeah.
starting happening. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when
So
I
yeah,
first heard,
I think the Jackals are going to do right by him.
yeah, 48. Because when I first heard the news, I'm like, where are the Jackals moving to? Sussex? And that's the only place I can think of. And somebody said, no, Patterson. Hinchcliffe is almost done. I'm like, really? So then I started looking up some information. I said, somebody with the stadium might be good to have on the podcast to talk to. So,
I appreciate that invitation. I really do, because I love, talking to baseball folks. I think those are the ones that really understand the plight and the reasoning behind why I would spend my entire adult life saving something which I grew up about 2 blocks away from. So
yeah,
if I'm not born and raised in Patterson, if I don't live that close to the stadium, if I don't love baseball, I'm not talking to you right now. I
no,
mean, who knows? I'm not going to say they would or would
maybe
not
somebody
save the
else.
stadium, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, you said you grew up 2 blocks. Do you have memories of the stadium as a kid? Like, did you see high school? I know that the New Jersey Eagles soccer team played there in the late 80s? Do you have any recognition of those?
So I knew of that
Okay.
happening. I never went to a game. I was a little too young for that. Plus, I wasn't really much of a soccer fan.
Okay.
Like, I believe I would be a season ticket holder if the soccer team came to Hinchcliffe. But at the end of the day, my memory is I remember walking past it and knowing that Eastside and Kennedy played there, but knowing damn well this had to have been more than just a high school stadium, just because of the grandeur of it, and just like the style and the design and the ticket booths and the medallions that depict the Olympic sports around the stadium. I think 13 different ones
Yeah.
are up there depicting different sports. I've always had, like, living in that neighborhood, I'm right on the border of history. Hinchcliffe Stadium, the Great Falls, a block away, the first modern submarine crash. So, my father always had a strong sensibility to history. So, I knew there was something more to it. And unfortunately, it took 1997 for me to hear that it was going to be condemned for me to say, okay, I need to look into this. And I wrote to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the Hall of Fame said that Hinchcliffe was represented in their library's archives. And that's all I needed to hear to get me to do my independent research and to be able to speak knowledgeably about the games and the sports that had been played there.
Yeah, because they also had auto racing there. They had Duke Ellington play there. The New York Giants had exhibition games. A lot has happened there. Like the Giants, was that something that was just in the 30s? That wasn't long standing, if I recall right.
Correct. Yeah, and the first NFL team to play at Hinchcliffe Stadium was a team called the Portsmouth Spartans.
Oh, the
And
Spartans.
they played. Yeah,
The Detroit,
they played a team against. Yeah,
Detroit
actually, I think
Lions.
it's Portsmouth, Ohio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Sportsmouth, Ohio. Yeah, and
But
that
what was
stadium is still
interesting,
there, believe it or not.
I I think I saw a historical marker on that. I think, yeah, you're right. I do remember reading about that because I started doing some research on the Spartans because they played at Hinchcliffe, right? So, but yeah, so all those pro teams that had, or high level pro teams, because the Patterson Panthers were a professional team, um, but they were kind of, the landscape of professional football was far different than it is today.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those, and football was much different then as far as its popularity.
Oh,
So
definitely.
that was kind of their way of barnstorming. So
Okay.
sure, you saw the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles played there. The Pittsburgh Steelers played a game there in 1946.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, they beat the Patterson Panthers by a whopping 55-0.
Mm.
And Hall of Famer Bill Dudley scored a touchdown in that game. So, so we do have some football representation there as well.
All right. So you said that the Spartans, the now Detroit Lions, were the first team to play a game there.
Correct. That's 1932.
Okay.
And what was kind of funny about that, there was a grand hotel in Patterson called the Alexander Hamilton Hotel. Do you think the Portsmouth Spartans stayed there?
No.
They didn't. They stayed at the YMCA.
Well, they're athletes, right? That's what they're
and for whatever reason, there was a parade from the YMCA to Hinchcliffe Stadium in honor of the Spartans being in town. And if I'm imagining a Spartans player saying, "What is going on here? Like, we're just here to play an exhibition game, But yeah, it was a big deal.
19. And did they play the Patterson Panthers or was it a local team?
At that time, there was a different professional team called the Patterson Giants.
Okay.
But not affiliated with the New York Giants.
Okay.
At that time.
So they had a
the Panthers were the mainstay. Yeah, they had a few professional teams, but the Panthers are the ones that kind of really kind of marked the time at Hinchcliffe. Yeah. Well, Augie Leo was kind of like the big guy who made it to the NFL from there. He was a kicker, eventually played for the New York Giants.
Yeah, I mean that's some great history to just to tell people. Yeah, the Detroit Lions played her back so long ago. They weren't even in Detroit yet, and they had a parade for them.
Exactly.
I mean, those are just really cool stories to tell people. Oh yeah, by the way, they had to stay at the YMCA. They couldn't stay at the Alexander.
Yeah, it's like okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Players must have been like,
I'm sure
the players were saying it's. Oh yeah, Notre Dame would never have.
No, Notre Dame would have been at the Alexander Hamilton. I mean, yeah, Princeton, Yale, but 1932 NFL squad. I mean, yeah, it was nowhere near where it is today. Not even the New York Giants football team would have stayed there. But yeah, those are just great stories to hear about. I never knew that, and I like to go on newspapers.com and look up information. I mean, I saw that the Giants used to play a team called what the heck, the Perth Amboy Clovers. And I grew up not far from Perth Amboy, and I don't know who the heck the Clovers were or where that stadium existed. But, now I want to get back home and do some research because.
No, of course. And I think that's the beauty of it, really. Like when I was doing my research on Hinchcliffe Stadium, what I found myself doing, especially with the baseball stuff, like you'd see a preview in the paper, like, okay, the Pittsburgh Crawfords are going to play the Black Yankees this weekend. And you read the previews and blah, blah. Then it's like, I rush to the neck. I want to see the game start. Did they win? And then when they won, I would feel good. And this game was so many years ago, yet here I am. I found myself rooting for the Black Yankees as I was doing my research. And that was part of the fun of it, quite frankly.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Just, following the team, seeing what happens next. You fall in that rabbit hole. And, and as far as I know, it was just the Black Yankees and the Cubans who played there. Were there any other Negro League teams, or were those the two prominent clubs?
Actually, the Newark Eagles played home games there as well.
Okay.
I don't know the reasoning. One might suspect because they were sharing the stadium with the Newark Bears and they just needed probably to fill up their schedule.
Yeah.
But yes, they played home games there. There was actually opening day, I believe it was 1938. That was a neutral site game. It was technically a home game for the Homestead Grays. So it's just, again, it's a neutral site game, but it's pretty cool that they did that. And an interesting story dating back to I believe it was 1936. The New York Cubans were playing at Hinchcliffe Stadium, but as with all teams go on the road, and they were going to be they were going on a more, when I say West Coast swing, probably as far as Kansas City or St. Louis.
Yeah.
But they were gone for 2 weeks, and the local promoters in town really wanted to keep baseball going, so they had actually what was a lower kind of team that was playing there out of Schenectady, New York.
Hmm.
And they had played there. So, again, think of the Negro leagues that we know, the Cubans, the Black Yankees is more like major league. This is maybe like a AA kind of team, so to speak.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Well, yeah, I'm excited for the future here. So a few more questions I have probably don't really have much to do with baseball, but
that's okay.
What do you call it, pork roll or Taylor ham?
Well, I've lived in North Jersey my whole life, so it's definitely Taylor ham.
That's right.
Although it is known as Taylor's pork roll, right? So
yeah,
right. It was invented in Trenton, right?
And see, I grew up in Colonia, right on northern Middlesex County, Union County, and we called it both. We never knew there was this line of demarcation.
Rivalry.
Yeah, I never knew that until I started doing a pod. Well, I knew it before, but I do a podcast with another podcast with a couple guys, and one of them is Dan Colachico from South Jersey. He likes all Philadelphia clubs.
Okay.
It's pork roll. Pork roll. He doesn't want to hear Taylor ham. He gets vehemently upset.
It does get hardcore once you get closer to Philly.
It does. Yeah, and we always thought one was a generic name, and we thought the other was the brand name. So in high school, when they ran out of pizza or burgers or chicken parmesan sandwiches, they always had pork roll left over. Here you go, pork roll and cheese. Okay. And then I come out to Indiana, and nobody knows what the heck it is. But there is a couple places you can get it here. So thank God.
So what part of Indiana are you from?
I live in Fishers, Indiana, which is right outside of Indianapolis.
So you're familiar with Busch Stadium then, right?
I'm familiar. Yeah, I used to walk in that stadium too when it was abandoned.
And that's what's interesting, because that also, I had put that on the list of Negro League stadiums. And once it became an apartment, once you change that historic component,
yes,
and it's not a ballpark anymore, it's a location, So that. At one point, I was like Rickwood, Hinchcliffe, Busch Stadium, Hamtramck. Now, to me, Busch is off the list.
Yeah, Busch is weird because if you drive outside of the entrance, it looks like the old ballpark. They have the old entrance, and then they even have the field. They didn't do anything to the field. They retouched the outfield. They have the scoreboard, but there's no grandstands. They're all apartments. And I actually made a video of it a couple years ago. I took a tour and shot it. And I play adult kickball, and a group of us were going to play on the field over the summer. But we had so many people show up. They said, we don't have any bathroom facilities, to accommodate everybody. So we couldn't play there. I was livid. I was like, I want to play at an old minor league ballpark. I was like, I was looking forward to that because you can still play on the grass field. They ripped out the dirt. They put concrete there. And then that's terrible. I wish they would just put back the old dirt or not even put concrete. Just leave it as grass so people can go out there and play and
sure.
And use it again for baseball. I might be a little bit difficult now because you don't have any seating, but you can get some rec teams out there to play. But you're right, Busch Stadium.
Foul ball in the living room.
What was that?
A foul ball in the living room.
Yeah, see that would be the problem. But that for 20 years was dilapidated, and they were going to knock that down. They used it for a storage for clunkers, cheap cars. And I used to walk in there and just take pictures, and used to see rats and graffiti and God knows what else. Snakes apparently were in there from what people told me. So they did a great job. I love the fact that they restored it. I would have loved for it to be a ballpark, but I get it. It's something now. And, it's not a distant memory, but, definitely Hinchcliffe it was not turned into an apartment. So thank goodness. But getting
Thank
back to
goodness.
Pat, yeah,
Or else I'd have to Airbnb there.
yeah, Airbnb there, which who knows? Maybe they'll come up with that as a revenue generating scheme. So, so you have your
Why
list
not?
of Rickwood, Hamtramck, Hinchcliffe, League Park. Is that considered a Negro League stadium?
No, I love League Park. I've been there a few times. I think what's difficult for me is like, I look at structure and also years of service as a Negro Leagues venue, and
Yes.
also the level of teams that had played there. I would say that what they're doing there is fantastic, but I would say that all that's left is really kind of like the ticket booth and like
Yes.
part of like the office space. So it's awesome. I will never downgrade it, but I can't put that as like a Negro League venue any longer. But certainly what they're doing there with their baseball history museum. Anytime I'm in Cleveland, and I was there back in October for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction.
You got around.
Absolutely, it was.
You live a nice life.
I
You get out to all these great
you know
ballparks.
what? It's kind of funny because last year was just like a whirlwind of travel
Nice.
because like there was just so many ridiculous things I had to go to, and I just love Foo Fighters, so I had to go see their induction, and
Okay.
sad to see that Taylor is not with us anymore.
Yeah, what would you think about his son's performance the other night?
It was tremendous. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they get him a tutor and he
Yeah,
becomes the next drummer of Foo Fighters.
yeah. I mean, you feel for the young man. I lost my mom 2 years ago. I can only imagine what it's like to lose a parent at his age. So you kind of
Yeah,
felt for the young man playing the drums. Who, I mean, God knocked that out of the park.
absolutely. And he found some will
Yeah,
to do it, and I think he's got a great support network with his mother and of course
yeah,
the band, and it's just fantastic.
yeah. Okay, and then the last Negro League team, JP Small in Jacksonville. Is that a Negro League stadium?
So here's the thing, yeah, and I think was it formerly known as Durkee Field? Am I correct
Yes,
in saying that?
I think you're
Yeah,
right.
because that's where like someone told me about JP Small. I'm like, who's that? And prior to that, I was like, oh wait, Durkee. Okay, yeah. So I'm aware of Durkee. Never went there.
Me neither.
Um, I think my only thing is like, look, I will always, and I think there's also Cardenas Field up in Rhode Island that has some connect point. The question is, when do you,
Yeah.
where do you draw the line? Like, Fenway Park had one Negro League game. Is that a Negro League stadium? I would
Mm,
venture to guess that it's not. But
no.
with the Jacksonville Redcaps, they were, kind of like, again, a lesser tier team, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
than say the New York Cubans and New York Black Yankees. But I think the fact that there any opportunity to restore or keep these Negro League facilities available, regardless of the level, I'm all for it. So,
Yeah.
I say join the club. Like
Okay.
I will never downgrade any of it because it's just too important and it's special to people in that community. And honestly, now that again, the Hinchcliffe Stadium advocacy will continue. I promise you that. And I have never, nor will I ever take steps back. But if anybody out there would love to talk about their local Negro League venue and how I can help out, hey, I'm free labor. I'd be glad to do so.
All right. That sounds great.
Give us a call, Durkee Field
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
JP Small.
Yeah, I was supposed to go there years ago and my plans changed and I never knew the significance of that stadium. I sort of wish I would have had been thinking about that because I think I was going to stay overnight in Jacksonville. I decided to just go for the night to see a Suns game. At the time, they were the Suns down the
Right.
Jumbo Shrimp, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I should have went to that park. I didn't know the heavy significance. And a lot of people say Asheville tourist, McCormick Field, but to me, that's a 1992 ballpark, not the 1924 stadium.
Oh, interesting. So there's nothing left of that, just at the
The
same
only
site?
thing I think is left is an old ticket booth. And the reason why I say this, because back in 2004, 2000, God, I'm forgetting, 2005, I showed up there on a February day, just traveling through. And I talked to one of the workers. I think he was the GM, and he told me, yeah, it's completely new. It's not the same stadium. The grandstand's new. We knocked everything down prior to the 1990 or after 1991, and it was rebuilt in 92. And he goes, the only thing standing is that ticket booth out there down, I think, the first base line. But I talked to a lot of people, and they say no, that's mostly the original. That's still considered the original stadium. So it's kind of that's a hot, heated debate with some ballpark hunters like myself.
I think you and I have to go and we have to research it and we have to make our determination.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
should be the jury, and we won't do it disrespectfully. We can say, look, these are the facts.
yeah. No, you just look at the facts. Like I could tell you another stadium. It's Johnson City, where the Doughboys used to play, and TVA credit.
Yeah, the Cardinals used to play there in
They used to be the
Appalachian,
Cardinals.
right?
They say that ballpark was built in 1956. I have found photos and newspaper articles that say it was built in 1950. And I have contacted the staff, and they have just not responded back to me. They haven't
They're
been.
embarrassed.
I don't know, but everybody says 1956. I have found no information that says a ballpark was built in Johnson City in 1956. And I can even send you the pictures. You can see the grandstand in 1950 going up, and you can look at a picture I took last year. It looks the same. It's the same.
Well,
It's
but
crazy.
the thing is that you would think like people would want, hey, we're older. That's even better. You would think like that would be,
And it's weird. And
welcoming.
or the one time I talked to somebody, the New York Yankees historian, he emailed me, and I was doing an article about Felix the cat being a good luck symbol. And there's a story how
Right.
he was a good luck symbol for the Yankees, I think in the 1920s. And he goes, that's not true. That somebody wrote that one year in a book, and it became commonplace. It's like, dismiss it. I'm like, okay, you're the official historian, so I'll do it.
Was it Tony Moranti?
Yeah, yeah.
I met him many years ago, and I actually used to work for Major League Baseball Productions.
Oh,
And I remember a very cold winter day. We went to Yankee Stadium to do some interviews. It was for the Billy Martin Yankeeography.
okay.
And I actually enjoyed my time with him. But it's too bad that he didn't acknowledge that. I'm a little surprised.
Well, yeah,
Maybe because it's
well,
yeah,
he goes, I know everything about the New York Yankees, like history. I can tell you everything about the team. And he told me they did have a mascot. They had like a bat boy who was considered good luck. I think it was the 1920.
the little guy. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, and he actually, I think was it him who called me up? Because I also talked to the New York Mets historian. I think he called me up about something else.
Jay Horowitz.
Jay Horowitz. Yeah, I was feeling pretty good that week. I got calls from the Mets, Yankees,
Jay
and
Horowitz
Twins.
is a great guy.
Yeah.
He actually lives in Clifton. He lives in the town I live in.
Oh, nice. Clifton, New
He's
Jersey.
a bit of a local hero here.
Yeah, you brought up Jerry Eisenberg. That I remember reading him in the Star Ledger growing up. He must be early 90s now.
He is, and he's in great shape. He's
Oh, good.
doing well. He still writes. He loves it.
That's
He lives
awesome.
out in Utah.
Okay.
After this, I'm going to give him a call.
Yeah, I totally want to be like Jerry Eisenberg in my 90s. Like my dad's 92. He still writes. Well, he's had some health issues, just more physically than anything. So he had stopped writing for a little while.
Right.
But he's going to be 93 this year, and he still wants to travel, but unfortunately, he can't walk as well as he used to. So enjoy those ballparks
Oh.
while we can. Yeah. So
You're right. I got one more major league one to go to myself. So
well, yeah, I need Texas and Miami. I got to hit those two. So.
oh, that's funny because that's the one I need is Miami.
Oh, really? Really? I had a chance to go to Texas.
And
should have went.
I know. I hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. and
So for me,
Washington- yeah, Washington took me forever to get to. I don't know why. So it's but
it's just kind of how it plays out, but I part of me refuses to go see a Marlins game. So I think I'm gonna go see the World Baseball Classic
okay.
championship game. We'll
There you
see.
go. Well, there you go. Yeah.
At least I could see. At least it'll be a packed house.
Yeah. It's almost like, why don't you? I have a friend right now. Well, he's not right now watching the game, but at 7:00 this morning, he was at a Doosan Bears game in Korea. And I was like, oh, I would rather be doing that than working at the moment. So you look.
Yeah. A day at the ballpark always beats a great day at work. A bad day, a rain out at the ballpark.
Oh yeah, especially I've been to rainouts in minor league baseball where it was beer night and we're just sitting underneath the covering having $2 beers, and that's all you need, to be honest. Back when I used to drink a little bit more, trying to cut back on that due to weight issues. So
Yeah. No, I hear you.
But last
It's
question.
tough on dollar beer night though.
Yeah, no, it
Go
is.
ahead.
Like,
Yes.
it's only $1. If they had dollar vodka night, that'd be a different story. Vodka
Sponsored by
bourbon.
Uber.
Yeah, just dollar bourbon. Like, if the Lexington, legend bourbon night, I'd be thrilled by that. But before I go, last question. A couple of friends didn't know about this out here in Indiana. Why are they called Texas Wieners? Why are the Coney dogs called Texas Wieners? What's that
You
about?
know, that's a great question. I mean, Libby's was kind of like that kind of iconic place.
Yeah.
And I hate to use the term iconic, but I did. Near Hinchcliffe Stadium and by the falls, there was the Falls View that is now a Burger King. I don't know why it was called a Texas Wiener yet. We are not in Texas. We are in New Jersey. It should be the Jersey Wiener, you would think. So I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But I have I live the next town over from Patterson, and the hot dog debate is rather fierce.
Yeah.
Libby's was great, and unfortunately, the city of Patterson kind of dropped the ball on keeping them with us still, and now that building is empty, sadly. And they dated back to like 1936. So
Mm,
imagine like it could have been possible that some of the Negro League players could have like had
yeah.
some food there, when
No, definitely.
Patterson was more welcoming, of course, of African Americans, than other cities, from the South, of course, in comparison. But when you go back to thinking about the hot dog, I mean, I live in Clifton now. Rutt's Hut is the deal.
Rutt's Huts.
Rutt's Hut, man. When you come back to New Jersey, hopefully you do, or New York area, please, we will go.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm always I like Jimmy Buffs too, but yeah, Rutt's Huts, can't complain about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think in Patterson, Biagio's right now is a little great push cart in West Side Park.
Okay.
He used to own Biagio's pizzeria. He's done a lot of great food in town, and I think that he's now the new hot dog king.
Yeah. People ask me, what do you miss about New Jersey? I'll say the food, because you
Yeah.
can't get some of those things out here. Like Cincinnati, I don't know what they do with those hot dogs, but those are not those are odd.
They're gray, aren't they?
They're small, number one. Like, why
What-
are they so small?
What
Then
color is that hot dog?
Yeah, they cover with so much cheese, and they put this Cincinnati style chili. It's not even chili. It's a Greek sauce that they. But yeah,
I love Cincinnati, but yes, I concur.
Yeah.
No, hope our friends in Cincinnati don't get upset with us.
no. I mean, I love Cincinnati. I lived there for a few months. It's a great city, and if I miss out on a city with good food, Chicago, where my wife's from, definitely helps me out. With
Oh,
some of their items. Like the Italian beef. I never knew what the heck that was until I came out here in the Midwest, and it's amazing. Why aren't people eating this in New Jersey? We have Italians. What's going on here? Like, what's going on here? I'm part Italian. I don't get it. Why don't we have it here?
Oh my goodness.
So
It's very fun. So after today's event, I know this is going to air a little later, but after the press conference, I went to my favorite place in Patterson to celebrate, and that was E&V. Great
Okay.
Italian food when you're in town. I mean, you have lunch for the next day. That's how big the
Oh,
portions are. So
that's what I like to hear. Yeah, that just sits.
you're getting me hungry again. You see?
All right.
I think we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to have a part 2 on this podcast. I don't think we've. I think we just, we just touched the iceberg that is Hinchcliffe Stadium and baseball and food and music,
definitely.
and we talked about it. We ran the gamut today.
And like I said, it looks like you've been to a lot of ballparks. I mean, we could just sit here and talk about your favorite ballparks. What do you like to see? You could talk about your experiences anytime, Brian. Two Jersey guys talking about baseball and food. I mean, come on, that should be like a weekly podcast at itself.
Oh, I actually thought the other day, now that the Jackals are calling this place home, I kind of laughed and said, yeah, maybe I should start the Hinchcliffe Stadium podcast. You might have to be the co-host, sir. You might have to have 2 podcasts of your own.
Let's do it. We'll make time.
All right.
We'll make time.
We'll have to do a pilot. We'll do a pilot. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, we'll see how it goes, and definitely
like Seinfeld.
Yeah. Well, here's the
wear
thing.
the puffy shirt.
The more people I talk to from New Jersey, the more I sound like I'm from New Jersey, because people out here will either say I can hear the accent a little bit or I don't hear it at all. So that's scary.
Right. So do I have it or do I not? I can't tell.
Yeah, I could hear the accent. I feel like I'm talking to somebody from back home. But
Great.
that's what you
I
want to hear.
stopped
You grow it
using
up.
my TV voice.
Grow it up in high school. They're like, oh yeah, we have accents. Go out to the Midwest. And I actually did that. And they're like, no way, we don't have an accent. And then you go out there and you just stick out like a sore thumb because the way you roll your R's, or you say coffee, or you say certain words that they don't say out here, like pop. I don't know what's pop. It's soda, or
Yeah, is that a father?
yeah,
Pop
or
is my
like
dad.
right at where I live, they have a lot of roundabouts, but I call them circles. Like I don't
Yeah.
call them. Yeah, they're circles. They're not roundabouts. But everybody looks at me like, why are you calling them circles? What's the matter with you?
Well, in Clifton, like the Allwood Circle is like,
Yeah.
it's almost like an institution. It's almost
Yeah.
like there should be a historical marker there.
There should be. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I remember these giant circles on US 1 and 9 in Woodbridge or Island. Those things were massive and they were dangerous. So they got rid of them all and they kept some up. So yeah, my mom would tell me
Right.
that story.
And that's where like now, like every time people say 1 and 9, I like to say 1 and or 9.
Yeah, 1 and
You
9.
know, it's like it's a funny thing, you know? It's
Yeah.
like Turks and Caicos. Why are you both? But you are.
Yeah, 1 and 9. And then once they get past like Woodbridge Center, the one goes down the shore, the other one goes all the way to Key West,
They
Florida.
go their separate ways.
They go their separate ways.
It's like marriage, sort of.
Yeah, it's kind of like marriage.
I have
Sometimes
no idea
I go in a separate bedroom and we wake up and we start all over again. That's it. Or my wife's like, you know what?
See, this is a show. This is a show.
Yeah, because my wife, when I go on these ballpark trips, she's like, I don't want to go with you. Just because I'm at a ballpark every single day. If I can get 2 in, I'm at a ballpark. So she's just like, go, have fun, come back, don't cheat on me. We're fine. That's it.
God, like done, and done.
Done and done. Of course, if I could get her to a ballpark and we get it with another couple or family, and she has a few in her, yeah, she likes it. All of a sudden she likes baseball. But if she's there with me and I walk around, I take pictures and videos and I talk to people,
Yep.
she hates that. So,
Oh,
God
man.
bless.
All right.
All right, Brian.
Hey, look, this has been great. I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah,
this has been a lot of fun.
We can do this again. You said it was going to be a lot of fun. I had a great time. So, all right, Brian, anything you want to say before you leave about Hinchcliffe? What do you want to tell people who are, kind of wondering what the heck's going on for the 23 season for the Jackals?
Yeah, I would say the first thing I want to say is go Jackals.
Go Jackals.
Look, I what I want to say to folks is give it a chance. This is a historic ballpark. Over 20 Hall of Famers play there. It would be something really special, to experience and give it a chance. I'm sure the Jackals are going to have plenty of opportunities for great like evenings or day games, especially on the weekends, to capture the national park crowd. Go see the national park, get your passport stamped, go to a ball game, have a few beers, enjoy yourself. You're going to be pleasantly surprised what the Great Falls has to offer. And that's all thanks in part to the National Park Service. What they have done with that space is amazing. And what the Jackals will do will complement that. So I will be there. Anybody wants to see me there, that'd be great. And please come on out, have a few beers and enjoy.
All right. I plan on being there too sometime in 23. I need an excuse to go home. So a new ballpark to visit. There you go.
There you go. Knock it off the list.
Knock it off the list. All right. Hey, Brian, thank you for coming on here. I appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch.
Great. Talk to you soon, Mark. Have a good day.
You too.